what we're calling, again, cultural competence. There are a lot of things. When you listen to Luby, when I listened to her presentation years ago, there were so many things that I didn't even understand about our own Muslim, Arab, and Sikh communities here in South Florida. And I grew up here, but I didn't know. And when I listened to her, my eyes opened up because I realized that how unique and distinct, and yet how all-American we are. It's all the same. And it's incredible here in South Florida because we live in one of the most diverse communities in the country. So here in South Florida, at the same time, you can be hearing a Muslim call to worship in Miami Gardens. You could be listening to or attending a Sikh worship in one of the largest gurdwaras in Florida, which is located in Southwest Ranches. You could be observing the Orthodox Jews walking to synagogue in Miami Beach, or you can be joining the cars going to Jesuit Catholic Church right here in downtown every day at noon, all in the same community. And it's incredible. Again, that's what I love. All distinct, yet all American. And the second reason that this is important as to what we're doing today is because it's not just because it's the right thing to do, which is great. It's not because we're here to protect civil liberties and make sure that justice is upheld. And also, practically speaking, it's great for law enforcement. The Muslim community are great partners for law enforcement. Something that I also didn't know a couple of years ago when we started our engagement with these communities is that as far back when I started looking into statistics in 2011, 2012, 7 or 8 out of 10 cases dealing with folks who want to do us harm because of radical extremism were helped. Our cases were aided and really discovered by members of the Muslim community who were talking to us about folks in their communities that were radicalized and who wanted to do us harm. And that's another sort of point that I did not know. And the more that we build trust, the more that there is a reciprocity in our relationship between the Muslim communities and law enforcement, the better we're all going to be. When I started doing this outreach, and I meet with the leaders of our Muslim and Arab and Sikh communities here, I ask them, what do you need from us, from the Justice Department? And they always ask, and they tell us, they said, Willie, for many years we felt very distant. We felt it was you guys and then us. There was the Justice Department and law enforcement and local police departments, and then us. Because again, misconceptions. And the Attorney General had been hearing this, and that's a very sad thing to hear, because they're all members of our communities. So we told them, and what they were telling us, that they were facing a lot of bullying. Their children in schools were facing a lot of bullying, being called terrible names. They were, feeling isolated, and they were being attacked in many cases, and feeling that they were victims of hate crimes. And so what we're doing here is that we're bridging that gap, and it's working. And actually on Thursday, we're going to have a dinner with the new FBI special agent in charge, who's new to the district, and we're going to have lunch with the leaders of the Muslim community just on Thursday night. And it's great to be listening to each other and figuring and learning from each other. And the Attorney General, like I said, he is committed to this. And when he met with the Arab and Muslim and Sikh community leaders in Washington years ago, and they told him how that feeling of isolation, his words were that the feeling that they have not been afforded the full rights and responsibilities as U.S. citizens was intolerable and inconsistent with what America was all about. The Civil Rights Division in Washington has regular meetings with the leaders all over the country every year. And the Department of Community Relations Service, we have Mildred here. Thank you, Mildred, for being here. And the Community Relations Service, what we call CRS, is a part of the Department of Justice. And their job is to respond to issues of discrimination or anything that disrupts communities. And they come and they have mediation, conciliation services, law enforcement training, like we're doing today, on cultural competence. They do so much. And like I said, and here locally, the FBI has a community outreach specialist. They hold conference calls with leaders of the different communities. We do the same thing, and we're going to continue doing that. And we do it through a lot of our initiatives. And I will tell you guys that something that evolved from this law enforcement training, I don't know if you recall, but we had the unfortunate situation that we had to arrest an imam because we had evidence that he was planning or sending money to those who were doing harm to others in that part of the world and here in the United States. And law enforcement knew and understood it because of the case and the exigency of the case. They had to walk into the mosque. And they took off their shoes. Law enforcement did. Because they understood that that was a sign of respect for that community. The support that law enforcement received from the Muslim community here in South Florida after that incident was, I got to tell you, nobody saw that coming. And it was that one moment when that law enforcement officer said, I'm going to go into that, I have to go into the mosque because of the investigation, but I'm going to take off my shoes before I go in. That community understood what was happening. They weren't happy. No one's happy. You know, any community is not happy when you have to arrest one of their leaders. But they stood by us and they said, Willie, you tell us what you need. What do you need from us? What kind of evidence? And it was that one act. And they said, I can't believe that law enforcement officer had the wherewithal, had the thought and the compassion to just respect that religion and everybody that was there. And that is what we're talking about. That community worked with us, not against us, with us on the different cases. So that is why I say that, doing what we're doing today and learning from Luby, understanding what our job is, that mutual goal of our security and our civil liberties. Those are mutual goals. And I thank you. I thank you for promoting this opportunity and this collaboration and this understanding. And I hope that you find this to be instructive, productive. I know you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to enjoy it. So thank you once again for coming here and taking the time out of your schedule for this very, very important topic. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Ferrer, for those wonderful introductory remarks. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are so excited that you're here this morning with us. And I'm here just to introduce our speaker this morning. We have the honor and the distinct pleasure this morning of hearing from and learning from and sharing with a young lady who was born here in the United States of America. She's a descendant, however, of parents who are from Egypt. She understands the Arab and Muslim cultures, but she grew up here in the United States in a small Christian southern town where she served even at a young age in building bridges between cross-cultural communities. So she has a profound understanding of the importance of connecting Christians and Jews and Muslims and Sikhs and all religions together and getting us to understand each other on a much better basis. In fact, one of the interesting things about our speaker this morning is her name is, she asked that we call her Luby. Her last name, however, is Ismail. You may know it, some of us may know it from the Judeo-Christian background because it's the same name as Ishmael, which means God has heard. So even in her name, cross-cultural understanding is present. Because if you remember the story of Ishmael from either the Torah or the Bible or in the Quran, it describes what happened when Sarah and Abraham decided to have, when God told them that they were going to have a child. So even in her name is cross-cultural communication. Without any further ado, there is a long bio that we have for her, and you can read it on Connecting Cultures. She's the president of Connecting Cultures, just a tremendous speaker, an amazing young lady, and she does training for all of the Department of Justice. She's our go-to person. I'd ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you could put your hands together and warmly welcome to South Florida this morning, Luby Ismail.
Thank you, Norm. And thank you so much, Mr. Ferrer, for being here. Assalamu alaikum. One more time. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Greetings of peace to you. I am so grateful to be here in South Florida. And that term, greetings of peace, is the universal term that Muslims, be it in Australia, to France, to Afghanistan, London, in Washington, D.C., where I live, and right here in South Florida, is that very few simple words. So one more time, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. May peace be with you. I'm very grateful to be here. I want to let y'all know that your U.S. attorney has been one of the leads in having this training happen because the belief in the importance, and it was in your opening statements, and I really appreciate it because too often people have asked, well, what's your intention? Our intention is only to empower you, to support you to do the very demanding job that you all have in law enforcement. So that is my bottom line, which is for us to have a chance in the next 2 hours to really ask the questions that you have and also to provide you with some general information about today we are going to focus just on Muslims in America. And I want y'all to know that that southern town that I grew up in is straight up 95 if you take exit to Lake Alfred or Winter Haven, Florida. I'm a Polk County girl. And so not only did I grow up in the South, but I grew up in Central Florida. So I can tell you, I was like big eyes coming into Miami last night because Miami is nothing like Little Lake Alfred. So with that, I want to ask y'all if it's okay to say y'all in South Florida, because I know that's how I grew up in Central Florida. I am not using a mic. Would y'all rather have me have a mic? Yes? For clarity? It's okay? All right. So what I want first for you to know is how I'm here and about this training. It was 1 week after the heinous attacks of September 11th that I received a call. And it was on the other line, someone from the Department of Justice, Community Relations Services, and I'll never forget. They said, we've received your name and we need you. And I thought, you need me for what? They went on to tell me that as the news unraveled about the attacks, but also the hijackers, there was, as Mr. Ferrer said, an immediate, what's been coined, backlash, not just towards Arabs and Muslims, but those perceived to be. And 12 plus years since September 11th, I'm going to tell you that backlash continues till today of innocent, law-abiding citizens of our country, where home for us is right here. So with that, the U.S. Department of Justice and Community Relations Services said we need to educate our first responders because they don't know this community. And it wasn't just that places of worship were being attacked, but also the homes, our children, and it was an assault so different than the America that I grew up in Lake Alfred. And this launched a nationwide training. So know that today is not my training, it's our training, because it was very closely vetted by not only the U.S. Attorney's Office under the Obama administration, but this really started under the Bush administration. And we call this training Improving Cultural Competence. What does that mean? This isn't the original training we've had, but to look at how to enhance. And I'm going to give you some general information, which most of you may know, but I really want us to get into, okay, so what? What can you be doing based on this information? What could you be providing to be even more stronger in engaging with the Muslim community? And as you said, having a strong connection and relationship with the community, not just for their civil rights and civil liberties, but it also assures a safer community, a safer America. So with that, I'm going to ask if I could have someone do my slides, and then I'm gonna have to move, because I'll be right in the middle, even though I like being in the center of the attention, but I'm gonna move out of the way, and perhaps even I will move off the stage, I'm not sure, let's see. So if we can, I'm gonna have somebody do it for me, if you don't mind. Because as you can tell, I like to use my hands. And if we can go to the next slide. So I have two main objectives for today. You know what, I'm gonna get off stage, because I feel I'll be a lot more at ease. And then I asked those in the back if they would be willing to come up. And I'm gonna tell you all right now, there is a prize at the end of this. And those who are willing to move up will start off with 25 points. So let me get off the stage, because it's just gonna be too tight for me. All right. And whoever comes up first will even get 50 points. So, all right.
Ladies first.
No, after you. The up front, you get 50. You get 50 right, you get 50 right away. You're ahead of the crowd, yes.
Now nobody knows I was late.
I know. Nobody knows you were late. Okay, great. Okay. So, educate for understanding and engage for success. Those are our main objectives, okay? And really, we just did this training in Orlando and Tampa. And one of the questions was, what are your intentions? I said, my intentions is only to give you more information, knowledge is power, just because too often people say, well, I didn't even know. And in diversity work, we say, who wants to be, you can't afford to be a naive offender. So it's just improving or enhancing your cultural knowledge and your own awareness about American Muslims, and particularly around the faith of Islam. I want also to say to you, though, that this training is 100% non-emergency, non-crisis related. So I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. Your work in your life and your decisions are for you to make. This is in the 99% that is going to be non-emergency, non-crisis. My other Surgeon General's warning to you is I am not the spokesperson for 1.23 billion Muslims in the world, or for 2 to 7 million Muslims in America, because depending on the source that you got, some will say it's 2 million and others will say it's 7 million. So I'm one representative of the Muslim community. I am president of a company I started 23 years ago, Connecting Cultures. And before 9/11, my customers were actually Walt Disney World. Actually, one of my newest customers has been Darden Restaurants. Y'all know Darden? Olive Garden and Red Lobster, yes. Because they've been opening up restaurants in the Arab world. And so law enforcement, I've had to learn also about your culture. So again, to say this is for non-emergency, non-crisis, okay? So let's look, if we can go to the next slide. What is cultural competence? So we're really looking at enhancing your awareness, you're deepening your knowledge, and building your own skill to engage effectively with American Muslims, focusing on Muslims in this country. So I want you now to turn to the person next to you and to just quickly brainstorm why, and we're focusing on Muslims today, but how can understanding culture and religion help you in the work that you do? We already heard from the U.S. Attorney, but what are some ways that can help you in understanding culture and religion? So just take a minute to share with each other. Okay. How can understanding culture and religion help you? Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm here part of our responsibility.
Okay, that was
We spent law enforcement hours. It's good to try to take that overseas experience.
somewhat new to my area, so I really don't have that much Okay. All right. So let's hear. So let's hear from.
I will not, wait till they stick their hand out and then.
So what's one benefit?
It's simple.
That's my move.
Our job is to,
Hold on. Okay, yeah.
our job is
Could
to,
you also introduce yourself? Because I know you all don't know each other.
Roberto Lazo Ochoa, I'm Deputy Chief of City Sweetwater Police Department. And then we have our other representatives here, which you want to go? Ryan Gardens, go ahead. Georgie and
Captain Day with Lamb Day School.
Okay.
Wednesdays. I guess our job is simple, to protect and serve. But who we protect and serve, which is the community itself. And going all the way up to what we said, that bottom line of the Constitution is, we the people. So if our community is for instance, widgets, we're supposed to be able to service widgets. So we got to understand widgets, what they do, how they feel, and stuff. If not, we're not doing our job. We're not alienated. We're part of that. We're there to again to protect and serve. So that's why it's very important. It's pinnacle for us to understand the community's needs, so we could be able to protect and serve them, not for them to serve us.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Great. What else? Let's hear from the group in the back there. Since you all didn't come up, I'm going to call on you. So what was another benefit that you say by understanding culture and religion?
This helps understand other groups. The district talks about understanding other groups and the way they look at police work or look at the way we deal with them. Sometimes we get better understanding.
Yes, so it's a two-way street. Because it's not only that you're understanding the communities, but also them understanding your position and your role. Because as you know, I can tell you my father has lived in the United States double the amount he's lived here over 50 years, more than he's lived in Egypt, but he was raised in a country where law enforcement was about fear. And the last thing a police officer was, or a person in law enforcement was, your friend. And so just the concept of community policing is quite foreign. So it's understanding the community, but also the community understanding you and your role in law enforcement. Okay. What else? What's another benefit? What about over at this group here?
Probation. We were talking about,
And to introduce yourself.
my name is Tanya Harkins from U.S. Probation.
No, it out with us, U.S. probation.
Okay.
And, we'll
Do y'all notice something that we tend to sit next to whom? The people we know, right?
We
Go
were
ahead.
discussing going in, Nora and I, going into the field and making home visits and just putting people at ease. And sometimes, usually we meet people first in an office setting, not like law enforcement, where you're maybe just going out kind of cold, you don't really know the culture when you get there. But we usually know people in an office setting, so we might have some indicators of the religion, and so that's a really good time to kind of discuss those issues. And personally, I have had that happen several years ago with the shoes. And I didn't take off my shoes, but I spoke to the gentleman outside, and I think just the communication, I said, I'm so sorry, you know, I just can't do that for my job. This is what I'm going to do, and please put your family at ease when I come in, and it worked out just fine. And they were very appreciative that I even said that. So, I mean, I guess there's different ways to handle things. But
Yes, exactly, right. There's not one way, but there's some way. And that's one of the things that we said is, I know many law enforcement officers, I'm not going to be able to take my shoes off because I'm in a situation where I don't know what I'm going to be walking into. And being able, as you did, to say, is there another place where we might be able to speak? And for them to have stepped out into the front door or to be in a porch, whatever it may be. So just you being able to acknowledge that that may be the preference, but where else would you be able to continue to do the job that you have? Okay, wonderful. Anything else? Any others? Yes.
I just want to echo what I think everybody said here is that in law enforcement, specifically the first responders, it's very important for us to know the cultures that we're dealing with so that we can put people at ease and we can speak to them properly. My grandmother once says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Well, knowing how to say it when dealing with people, it really sets the tone. And if you're going to have, you know, a successful outcome to whatever you're dealing with, communication is key. And if you start off by offending the person, it's going to just, you know, spiral downward from that.
Okay, very good. So the 3 R's for engaging with Muslims, and I would say with any population, is respect, relationships, and resilience. Respect, relationships, and resilience. What does that mean? Immediately showing and conveying respect. And we're not expecting you to be masters at how to engage across all cultures, but just being able to say, help me understand, or what would be the preference, or what would be the way in which I can build and convey respect. It's very important. Relationships, critical. And resilience, why do I say resilience? Resilience is to say that this can't be, well, I went once and that was enough. How are you maintaining the relationship that you've begun? So that they don't just see you when there is a quote-unquote problem, when there is something that's occurred with someone in the community, so that they know that they've got an ongoing relationship with you. Okay, that's not just a one-time stop. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And just look at, I think you all know these. These are, again, this training was cleared and vetted by law enforcement, your colleagues. Best protect the serving communities. I want, and that is why I'm going to talk about Islam and practices. Because I want to be able to differentiate from a perceived threat and a cultural or religious norm. I remember after September 11th, when the first trainings we did within weeks, one officer said, what is this with the Quran being in the glove compartment? Is that code for something? I'm like, let me tell you, if you opened up my Honda Odyssey with my 3 kids, you're going to find a Quran in the glove compartment. What is it about? It's just a symbol of asking for protection from God if something occurred. So it's like if someone had if anyone's Eastern Orthodox, and has a picture of a saint or someone who has an icon of some religious figure, it's the same way. So that was a difference that we needed to say. This is not indicating anything of threat It's just a cultural norm. Okay, so that's just one, and I'll share with you some others. Reducing complaints, I know officers have told me the last thing we want to do is have to go back into a situation that we thought was resolved. Enhancing trust, let's go to the next slide. More effectively making informed decisions, reducing tension, and I think this is the biggest thing that I've learned from law enforcement, is you, as I, want to be able to go home safe every day after you work, right? And what has been shown is by understanding culture, religion, cultural competence, is not only will it keep you and your partner safe, but it also can be an incredible benefit of safety and security for the community at large. So by understanding culture and religion can make the number one, I think, for you all is safety and security, not just for the communities, but for yourself and your partner. Okay. So let's go on to looking, I'm going to focus on Muslims, but I wanted to present to you about religious diversity in America. Every single religion in the United States is practiced in the world, is practiced right here in the U.S. And the U.S. Attorney said, he mentioned the Gurdwara, the place of worship for Sikhs, he mentioned the synagogue, he mentioned the mosque, he mentioned some of the churches, and as we know, not all Christians are monolithic, right? And so to look at religion, even though in the U.S. we typically hear it's a Judaic Christian country, but the trends are showing a major change and a shift. My own children, their dad is a white guy from Pennsylvania. My kids have a Jewish last name because his father was Jewish. He was raised Christian, and then we've raised our kids Muslim. And so they won't, quote unquote, look like Muslim, whatever that means, which we're going to look at in a minute. But also to know that there's diversity within each of these groups, okay? So let's go to the next slide. So I told you about Little Lake Alfred. I want you to know a little bit more of my story. My parents came here to pursue their PhD studies at the University of Florida. And it was right after desegregation. And they couldn't find a kindergarten for me. It was actually, this picture was at a Baptist church kindergarten. And they said, sure, we'll take her in. And actually, my full name is Luby Ismail. Well, you know, I love my Polk County people, but they say, what? And so Luby got reduced to Luby, this four-letter word, which sounds like actually green beans in Arabic. So anytime I go back to Egypt or to an Arab country, they start laughing because they say, you're saying call me green beans. But as y'all, can you all tell, can you find me? I know the screen is a little bright, but I'm in the front with the black, yes, with the black ponytails, and you can see we didn't even have anybody who was African American in the picture. And all these friends of mine, I actually went from kindergarten through graduation at Auburndale Senior High. And so we were very close. And one of the things that I say is that my America at that time, it wasn't about what's your religion, it was about what color, what are you? And I remember in elementary school being asked, what are you? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, are you black or white? And I said, I never even thought of that, because in Egypt, we don't identify by race or color of skin. And so they went on to have a conversation about what they thought I was. And I was this brown girl. And my parents were very open to engage, honestly, being of Egyptian origin. We were considered exotic because people saw us as being the land of the pharaohs and the pyramids. But really, my upbringing was quite positive because there was a place of mutual respect. And my very best friends actually were evangelical Christians. And so we came to say we're different. So with that, let's go then now to, because I'll come back to some of the stories out of some of the people in that picture. So if we can go to the next slide. So educate for understanding. And know that I'm presenting you facts. These are not my opinion. These are the most general understanding about Muslims and about Islam. So let's go to the next question. Muslims are recent arrivals to the United States. How many say true? How many say false? Okay, everybody give yourself 10 points. So I mean that there is a prize. It's a legitimate one. So 10 points. Muslims are not new to the United States at all. So if we go to the next, there is documented maybe anywhere from 5 to some say 20% of the enslaved Africans were actually Muslim. And in that picture there you see Abdurrahman, who in the 1700s, he was captured in West Africa. He was a prince. He was fluent in 3 or 4 languages, and he was sold into slavery in Natchez, Mississippi. However, some of those who were captured along with him knew him as the prince. So he had this title, prince, and it was President Adams and the Secretary of State, Henry Clay, who actually engaged with him to try to get him to return to his beloved Futa Jalan in West Africa. Great story, and I have even in your handouts if you want to see the documentary that aired on PBS. But this is just to say that Muslims from even the very beginning, and some even say some of the indigenous Native American Indian, there was Muslim. The first mosque is in 1934 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. That is a picture of the Islamic Center in Washington, D.C. For me, it was extremely moving because in Lake Alfred in Polk County, there were no mosques, there were no other Muslims, there were no other Arab Americans. So I went on to study at American University where I cried when I went to a mosque in America because the only time I had seen a place of worship was actually in Egypt when our family would vacation there in the summers. Okay, so next is just to know that there's been a wave of Muslims from the very beginning. In the early 1900s, you had Arab, Kurdish, Turk, Palestinian, who were Arab and Muslim, but a lot of them were Christian. And then post-60s, which is my parents' generation, that came here mainly for education. 77% of Muslims are U.S. citizens. The majority of American Muslims, this is their home. This is what they know and have always known. Okay, let's go right on. So, in thinking about Muslims, I just wanted to remind you, we have Muslims who are comics, we have Muslims who are in sports, we have Muslims in the cartoon, comic, book industry. Keep going on. We have this grade Faith, Miss Rima Fakir, in 2010 was crowned Miss USA. Not only was she Muslim, but she was Arab, and that she won that crown. And those are the things that makes me most proud as a U.S. American, is that we are not holding all Arabs or Muslims based on the acts of a few. We have people in Congress and in various parts of the federal government and local and state. And this is also an actress at the end. Anybody watch Dr. Oz? I'm a big Dr. Oz fan. By the way, Dr. Oz is of what descent? What ethnic or kind of cultural background? No, not Lebanese. Turkish. And guess what his real name is? Osman. Osman became Oz, like Lubna became Luby. So he is actually Muslim heritage, Turkish heritage. Okay, let's go to the next true false. The majority of American Muslims are of Arab origin. How many say true? How many we say false. Okay, false, give yourselves another 10 points. Let's go to the next. Muslims in America are the most racially, ethnically diverse group of all religions, okay? They're the most diverse. And so you have white, what does that mean, white, 28%, African American, 35%, Asian, 18%. White can include Arabs, because whoever made that decision, even though I look at myself, I say I'm much more African in my features, but white also includes the Arab population. Now here's a really bonus question. If someone knows this answer, you're going to get 50 points. What makes you an Arab? How do you define who is Arab? How do you define who's Arab? And if you're willing, you can take a risk. What makes you, how do you define who's Arab? Yes?
Mother, birth?
No, not your mother, not birth, but we'll give you 20 for having the courage to take Not where you're born, no, because I was born in Lafayette, Indiana, where my parents were first at Purdue, yes?
But isn't our, it's really not, it's British, use of, or really, because like the Muslims, I don't know, they really don't consider themselves Arab, because Arab, or Arabic is British, when they were colonizing.
Yeah, actually, it's not having to do with the British, but you touched on, which is اللهجة العربية. لو أنا بتكلم معاكم بالعربي أنا عربية. It's about language. It's about language. So we'll give you 25. You got half of it right. So it's about language. So Arab is that your mother tongue is Arabic. Your mother tongue is Arabic. So thinking about Arabs are not the same color. I have a cousin who is a carrot top with freckles. I have white, blue-eyed cousins, and I have dark skin or curly, pinky hair. So Arabs are diverse, but Muslims are multicultural. So let's go to the next slide. If we can just watch, I want to show you an opening of a film called Inside Islam, What a Billion Muslims Think. And this film was a Gallup poll, because during Donald Rumsfeld's tenure at the Department of Defense, he was asked, well, what do you think the Muslims, what do you think, how do Muslims think? And he kind of sarcastically, well, I don't know, because there's never been a Gallup poll of Muslims. Well, guess what? The head of Gallup heard it and said, you know what? Let's do a Gallup worldwide of Muslims. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this film that came out of the Gallup survey. Okay. And if we can dim the lights once it comes up, then you'll.
This program was made possible by the Elderly Charitable Foundation, the Al-Azam Foundation.
So this film did air on PBS a few years ago.
Muhammad Al-Latif and Rania Zaga.
Is there any way to turn off this one light up here? No.
And Abdul Majid Kadranji. And the Body News Club and other supporters of UPF. Thank you.
of Muslims are Arabs. Of course, not all Arabs are Muslims. The largest percentage of Muslims actually live in Asia, and Muslim minorities thrive in the West, in the United States, in Europe, and in Latin America.
When we actually listen to the voices of the many Muslims, what we see is that often the reality goes against what has become the conventional wisdom in this country.
The Clash of Civilization theory is based on a set of assumptions. The first one, probably the most important, is the idea that Muslims around the world do not share our democratic values. They don't understand or value free speech. They don't value gender justice. They look at representative government and think that it leads to chaos and corruption.
A lot of Americans who are just afraid of the Muslim world. They don't understand it, and what they really seems to be all negative. People who hate us, who kill us for simply being Americans, who want to destroy our country and our society because of what it is. All of those things engender enormous feelings of fear and anger and animosity and all kinds of other negative emotions.
Ironically, it takes an event of the kind of magnitude of 9/11 to draw focus to part of the world that most Americans didn't typically have any contact with.
On Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, my husband and I, as well as our one-year-old baby Tarek, were supposed to drive from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, where we were moving to start graduate school. We were just chatting, talking, drinking coffee, eating breakfast, packing the last things into the car, and the news was just in the background. And then at 8:41, we just looked over and couldn't believe it. We were all just in shock. We couldn't even talk to each other. We had no idea what to think, what to expect. And I remember the only thing that we could say to each other was, please God, let this not be Muslims. I was afraid of being associated with the people who had done that horrific act. And we were afraid of what would happen. We had been hearing story after story and warning after warning about not going out and not being in situations where there might be risk of hate crime. People, of course, were understandably in shock, horrified, very angry, and we were scared.
The moment I saw Twin Towers crumbling, for me it wasn't just an act against the US. For me it was an act that was a wedge driven between us as Arabs and the Muslim world and against the US.
I think the first question that every American asked, and you saw reflected in newspapers and magazines and all over the TV and radio airwaves, was this question of why us? Why did they do it to us? What did we do, or what did they do to us? Why is this happening to us?
As a direct result of 9/11, really that same day, our CEO came to me and said, we ought to be the first polling operation trying to see how all of these events look from the other side of the equation. And like all good ideas, my brain initially kind of rejects it because that can't happen. But by the end of that day, you're going, boy, but if you could do it somehow, it would be the most important thing you've done as a company. And it would really be a service to do that, to get it right.
for me as a researcher, and the same for the Gallup team, we wanted just to explore. We did not have an agenda. For us, it was not a process of just learning. It was how to uncover things. And what research techniques you use to learn about people affinity with religion, God, social relations, the government, the institution, the authority. How do you assess the attitude and the relationship, knowing that you are, especially in the Arab world, in mostly authoritarian states?
And we sat down, and I think within about 4 or 5 days, we had a questionnaire that, in retrospect, holds up pretty well. It wasn't just about 9/11. It wasn't about specifically about Al Qaeda. It wasn't specifically about extremism. It wasn't specifically about Palestine and Israel. It was about a whole range of things.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to be with you this afternoon. My name is Dalia Mogahed. I direct the Center for Muslim Studies at the Gallup Organization. Now, I belong to a group of people who are often demonized and bashed by politicians and pundits. I'm a pollster. I come at this work from many different positions. I come at this work as a scientist. I come at this work as a mother. I come at this work as a woman, as an American, and as a Muslim. What I did was to direct two sides of the poll. One is the crafting of questions with my team, and the other side was to actually analyze the data that came back. The actual polling was done by our brave, courageous, and wonderful polling directors or research directors that went all over the world and actually created a system by which we could interview people and get the data back.
So in a way, we were pioneers. I'm not a social reformer. I'm a researcher. I take things as they are. I analyze them. I accept them. Yes, I have my own political views on things and how society could be, but I work in 23 countries. It's not my mission to change. My mission is to inform. No agenda, no political agenda, no religious agenda. It's just let's learn about these people. And not only that, is being able to be a part of a bridge between the Arab world, the Muslim world, and the US and the West in general.
Okay, so I want to say to you that on the sheet, I gave you a lot of resources. You can watch this film in full. And I encourage you to, and there actually is an updated version of the Gallup. The main findings that came out of the poll was that Muslims around the world had nothing against Americans. That the vast majority of the 1.23 billion Muslims in the world condemned the acts of September 11th and beyond. That they aspire for the values and the ideals that we strive to live by. And if you think about it, since 2001, what have we been seeing happening in Arab countries? What have we been seeing in the political landscape in Arab countries? Twitter and Facebook, and what were actually signs saying, thank you, Facebook, thank you, Twitter, because what's been happening, and is still happening in Arab countries. Tahrir, does that sound like anything you know? Yes? There's been incredible what? Overthrow of their autocratic, long-standing regimes. In Egypt, there was the protest against Mubarak, who had been in power for over 30 years. Gaddafi of Libya. We're seeing in Yemen. We're seeing in Bahrain. We're seeing in Jordan. We're seeing major movements for what? For democracy. So democracy is not a Western concept or ideal. It's one that all too much the young people of Arab countries are saying we want to, that we are tired of dictatorial, autocratic rule. Now, look at this, American Muslims are diverse. Again, we can't help but to have people say they look Muslim, or they are Muslim because of how they dress. So again, just remember to pause on your assumptions, because I am as Muslim as anyone else. My brother, who played for the Florida Gators, he, all 6'3" and 260 pounds of him, are Muslim and American. And again, just thinking and reminding yourselves that Muslims around the world are multiracial and multicultural. Arabs are the minority of Muslims in the world. Only 1 out of every 5 Muslims in the world are actually Arab. Only 1 out of every 5. The vast majority of Muslims are Asian and are African, continent of Africa. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. American Muslims have served in every war. I think also there was this perception, would they serve to protect our nation? And if we look, how many say that's true? Yes, it's true. Since the Revolutionary War, and give y'all 10 more points, that there have been Muslims that have been documented from the Revolutionary War to today's wars in Iraq and now in Afghanistan. This very poignant picture of Karim Rashad, who was one of the first casualties of the Iraq War. And that picture, it was General Colin Powell who cited the picture because that's the mother on his tombstone. And that was also when there was a lot of wrangling about, is Barack Obama a Muslim? Which of course he's saying, no he's not, but even if he was, so what? And it was that picture that really moved General Powell. We do have at least 4,000, if not more, of those who are serving to protect and to serve in our U.S. military branches. Okay, next slide. Go to true false. Muslims have not condemned terrorism. I still get that. Where are the Muslims? Why can't they say more? Why can't they do more? We have, and obviously we continue to. We go to the next slide. Then very following week, particularly after 9/11, but I'm going to tell you even right now that we had every Muslim leader around the world condemn acts of terrorism and acts of violence. That we, if we can keep going on, every single Muslim group has condemned September 11th and beyond. Because here's what I want you to remember, is that these extremists, these criminals, they're not against America. They're against humanity. Because I was just mentioning, because we have somebody here who served in Iraq, that last month in May was the largest number of murders, attacks on Iraqis that they have seen. And so to know that it's not that they hate us, they hate everyone. And the vast majority of fatalities has been towards their own people in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and throughout the region. So just to remind ourselves, okay, continue on. This is the Council on North Americans saying targeting civilians' life and property is considered a method of attack which is haram, which is prohibited. It is barbaric acts of are criminal. Only I wanted to bring to you, but I have it, I think, cited, and you get it. There is the most recent, an 800-page fatwa. Fatwa means opinion. On suicide bombings and on acts of terror by a prominent Pakistani Islamic scholar. And he cites from the Quran and from the Hadith which is the example of the prophet, that why these suicide attacks and why acts of criminal behavior is unassigned. So again, our community continues because we, as a group, are identified with this fringe extremist. And that's one of the challenges of being a minority. And I just recently was engaged in a conversation with a dear friend, and he was asking me, where are the Muslims to condemn? And I out of the expense of being defensive, I said, yeah, and where are your people, because he's white and he's male, to condemn the acts of murder that have been happening on the streets, and that they are not tied to a group. And yet, people who are in the minority, it's the same for African Americans, it's the same for Latinos, that they get tied with this French, who happen to be of their same ethnicity or racial color. Okay, moving right along. Let's keep going. I'm just giving you some. So domestic terrorism, and this actually came out of the U.S. Department of Justice. I wanted to put more pictures of more recent people who have committed terror, but they said let's keep it to the past. So as you know, terrorism comes in all shades and all faiths, and just reminding us to pull off our eyes from just the Muslim or Arab community. Unfavorable attitudes towards Muslims have increased since 9/11. True? Yeah, they have. I mean, they continue. Let's go, even though our efforts, they have increased. They have increased. And here's why. That if all you see and all you hear about Muslims or about Arabs is of the most heinous and the most violent, then that's all you get, right? And so it perpetuates that stereotype. And there's a great deal of fear. If I only watch Fox News, or if I only listen to certain pundits about the Islamophobic wave of information that is demonizing, making us separate from America, I would fear Muslims too. And if we go on looking at Islamophobia, that there is a cottage industry with millions of dollars, and their agenda is to separate Muslims and to ignite the fires and the flames of fear. So that we're outing them more and more to let people know. I'm happy to say that most recently, last week in Kansas City and Wichita, the sheriff, after much engaging with him, has decided not to use an Islamophobe trainer, so-called, for law enforcement, because that's the last thing you want, is someone who's going to propagate or twist or turn information that is misinformation. And so we're now talking to him about our openness to come engage with the Wichita, Kansas police with training like this one, which has been vetted and approved by the Department of Justice. Okay. What's the impact, though, of the Islamophobia? Condemned by association. Experience, my father, who's lived here more than he has in Egypt, he feared that we may be rounded up. And some in the Muslim community do feel if another like September 11th attack happened, what's going to prevent this sense of rounding or holding criminal all Muslims? But that's why I love this country, because here we are in this U.S. Attorney's Office. Yes?
I'm just curious about that statement. How could anyone think that this day and age that we could round up all the citizenry of a particular race or anything like we did here in World War II in Japan? Yeah, I don't think we'll ever happen.
I don't either.
So that is just as phobic to me as saying that the other, and that every white male that speaks with a southern accent is a KKK member or something.
Right.
You know, it's like the same thing.
Unfortunately, bigotry and prejudice comes in all, we're all victims of it. However, all to be reticent of whatever may be playing out in Afghanistan or playing out in a Muslim majority country, that there is a backlash, and it does occur. And that's the thing that, for you all, just to be able to have that relationship so that you can check in and say, hey, how was everything? Because there was a man shot to death in front of Home Depot a few months ago for being Arab, being Muslim. So I wish it was just a perception, but there still is. There still is.
On YouTube.
Pardon?
And there was an American with his throat slit on YouTube.
I know. I
It's
mean,
back
so
and forth. It's not just against Muslims.
exactly. And here's what I want you to remember is who are the biggest victims of so-called Muslims? It's Muslims themselves. It's Muslims themselves. Okay. All right. Moving right along. American identity question. You can keep going. So to remember that the law-abiding citizens and patriots are the majority, that extremism has been condemned, that they identify with the U.S. And very much, this is our home. I've had people say, you guys should go back to where we belong. And I say, where I belong is literally back, where my parents and hands still are. Okay. I'd like to put on now this one tape. This was an initiative that we made because, again, I think things are better, but it's not over. And we called it My Fellow American, that allowed people just to see Muslims perhaps as Americans. And I won't say any more, I'll let you just watch this very short clip. By the way, we passed out cards, because I know sometimes with a large group, I would like you to write any question that you may have, that if I don't answer, I'll be able to have them and we'll be able to give them response to through the moment. So please, any questions that you may have, particularly in regards to this. Okay.
Fellow American?
Yes, my fellow American. It's a very short clip.
Is that a war with a religious dictatorship for the survival of the Western world? Nothing less than that.
Islam at this moment is responsible for more pain, more bloodshed, more devastation than nearly any other force on earth. We stop saying that the God of Islam and the God of Christianity are the same God. They're not the same God. Islam intends through violence to conquer the world.
Make no bones about it. That is pure, unadulterated evil.
And Americans need to wake up.
And throw out of my country. I raise the American flag and I get out my trumpet without due process. I'm not going to put my wife in a hijab, and I'm not going to put my daughter in a burqa, and I'm not getting on my old fours and praying in Mecca, and you can drop dead if you don't like it. What kind of religion is this? What kind of world are you living in? You left them in with that throwback document in their hand, which is a book of hate. Don't tell me I need re-education. They need deportation. I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind.
American politicians state that the vast majority of Muslims living in the United States are just ordinary people who love America and are loyal to America. Is that true? Is that really true?
I can't begin to tell you how important it is that we understand the true nature of Islam, that we see it for what it really is.
Police say the 17-year-old broke several windows with an iron rod.
actually, if you go to it, I don't know if we have anybody here for the FBI in particular, but even the head of FBI, we'd ask them to just state some testimony about their fellow Americans that they know. And it's a very active way for us to be engaged in just reminding people again about their fellow Americans. Okay, it's 10:25, and as a trainer, I've told that people need essential functions grades. Not even essential functions. So let's take 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back to look at educate for understanding. So 5 minutes, you're allowed to take care of one essential function.
Unless you can multitask.
I run out of cars, I apologize. I should have come prepared. They told me this at the last meeting. So, Luby, where am I from? My name is Saida. Saida. My grandparents from my dad's side, they're from Syria. However, they migrated to Cuba in the 1940s. Yes. Saida is my name, which the minute, no, this is what happened. They migrated to Cuba, and I really don't know what happened. My dad was raised with someone else. So my last name should have been Dutton. But my dad was raised by a Cuban gentleman, and so he gave my dad his name, which is Fresnillo. Saida.
I know, I looked at you, I said, oh.
Is that why you stare? I saw you staring at me. Everyone that sees me, yes.
So because we take you to Arab country, and then you say, oh, you're Arab.
Yes, everyone tells me. Saida.
So what about your mother?
No, my mother's Cuban. So, yes. So unfortunately, I love the food, and I'm so intrigued by the culture. However, I don't speak the language. I wish the only thing that stays within me, it's yes. I love the food. I love the culture. But my dad grew up with the Cuban family.
How old was he?
No. My dad was born in Cuba. He was born in Cuba.
So his parents?
Yes, his mom and dad migrated to Cuba. I believe it was in 1942. My dad was born in 1945. Yes, they were back in Cuba in the 1940s. Isn't that amazing? Right now, as far as I know, no. I left Cuba, 30-something years ago. I wish I would have known more. When everyone sees my name.
I know. So you have
Yes, I do.
What's your name? Saida, you know what that means?
Fortunate, someone tells me, right?
Fortunate one.
Fortunate.
Happy one.
Yes, happy, fortunate. Yes.
Saida, because we say, Ana Saida, I'm happy.
Yes.
I'm blessed.
Yes, I am. That I am. Yes. Isn't it that funny?
I know.
I would. My dad did not know that his parents. Okay, my dad.
Which country were your grandparents?
They came from Syria. That's
right.
Syria. So my dad is brought up in a family, a Cuban family. So my dad thinks that this is where he belongs. Only when he was 18 years old did he find out the truth as to where his parents were from. He was 18. So, yes. No, he never met them, unfortunately. So, my dad, once he found out that he was adopted, he sort of got a, bitter life. He often questioned why his parents didn't so much like him or whatever. So it was sort of a drama. I really don't know how it happened. He really never got closer to that. Yes. So it's still my father, but I always not know. What he knew was that his last name was not his name. It was Dudley.
You know, on National Geographic, we have a genome test. You get takes with your time on, and then you put in the envelope, and then you just and they tell you roots, where your path, based on your, go to the National Geographic, the genome, and it costs like
I would love to find out. class is over, I'd like to get that information.
Yeah, we'll take my card now. You see my card?
May I? Thank you.
Saida.
Saida. I love her name. I love it, and I love the food.
So what about your mom?
My mom is Cuban. She's from the countryside. She's very humble. So my mom is very, very, very extremely humble. So my dad, yes. My mom and my dad, when he was 18, when he was just finding out about his parents, and then from then on, my dad just been because of that. Yes, he stopped, for whatever reason, he stopped believing in God, because he says, how can my parents not want whatever ideas there were, we didn't really talk much about that. I wish I would have interacted. He passed away now, he's in heaven. Well, I believe in reincarnation, so I believe that he's here with me. He's always with me. Yes. And there was that time which was, yes, but I took another religion. I practice Yoruba. Yoruba comes from Africa. Yes, she's Muslim sometimes. It's an interesting religion. That's what this is about. Yes, we could. You never know. I believe that we all connected somehow. Yes.
Well, they thought that the first humans came from Africa. Found her focus.
It is believed, and my religion is believed that the woman had the power, but somehow just lost it. We're too nosy. Yes. We're strong. I believe that. Anyway, because
Okay, email me.
you got it.
I'll tell you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I don't want to go where they're expecting me to answer.
Okay. I am the national, I'm responsible for Miami for the state.
Deep cut with U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services. Yeah, that's a whole different district. That's a different district. We have different districts. I just found one day we just went down to the mosque down in Kenmore. It's actually right behind our office. About at night. They were there for almost 3 hours. Copy the officer, because we have a forum. Copy the officer, I guess I want to put a little farther. More so, that's almost exclusively community-based, but highly, they are community-based. In Miami, which has a mixture as well. But our Kendall office literally is in the backyard of the mosque. And just go out our street and just right under how one day the other street.
And I know it's changed, but When we talk about our swan song assignment, before retiring, I just came from that cradle. Little cradle over here. Is that there? Because a lot of our constituents that you support are of Muslim faith, and we have to address those things. So now everybody is really where everything else
Okay. We can go to the next slide. Well, I come with both or without both?
Hi, good morning again. We're glad that we're having a good fellowship here with one another. We're going to try to.
All right, so Islam 101. So let's, I'm glad, I want you all to network with each other because this is a chance for you to be outside of your main place of engagement. Islam 101. So why, I'm just going to give you honestly a quick note of some of the major beliefs and practices because people often say it's the religion that we know the least about. And it seems like a foreign religion to some Jews and Christians, which is the dominant faith in this country. So we'll look at a little bit. So let's go to the next slide and see the next true-false question. There are many common beliefs between Jewish, Christian, Islamic. How many say yes? Share a lot, yes. And thankfully we had Norman talk about my name. I never thought about that, but yes, Ismail or Ishmael is one of the story of Abraham, and the sons is a common story for Muslims. So the answer is, everybody give yourself 10 points. True, let's go. And look at these. What are the common beliefs for Muslims? So I'm not here to say this is one sect versus another. This is written like the 10 Commandments. These are the common beliefs for Muslims around the world. Number one, we believe in one God. We are mega monotheist. The God of Abraham. Okay? Allah is simply the Arabic word for God. So what's the Spanish word for God? Dios, right? Adios means to God. What's the German word for God? God. What's the French word for God? Dieu. So the Arabic word for God is Allah. If you went to an Arab Christian church, they will speak and sing hymns in Arabic. So you will hear Allah. You will hear Arabic. Anybody see The Passion of Christ? It's an old film, but there's also a new film out. But in The Passion of Christ, they had Jesus spoke in what language? Aramaic. Aramaic, well guess what? Aramaic and Arabic are very close together. So when Jesus spoke and said God, it was very close to the word Allah. So Allah is not a Muslim God, it's the word God in Arabic, okay? Angels, we believe, yes?
One thing that I learned studying Islam, Christianity, and Judaism is that one commonality between the religions is peace.
Yes. Well, look at the greeting of Muslims. It comes from the Arabic word salam, which is actually peace. So to be a Muslim is to submit to the will of God to be at peace. And the religion, Islam, is to attain peace. So like we have a healthy diet, to be at the best in terms of our own health, physical health, but also for Muslims, it's kind of like their prescription for being at peace. And we'll look at some of the practices. Prominent figures. Who was the first prophet according to Muslims? The answer is on that sheet. Okay, Abraham, not Abraham, but actually Muslims believe Adam was the first messenger from God. Adam. We believe in Adam and Eve and Abraham and Moses. Moses and Jesus are mentioned more times in the Quran than Muhammad. Muhammad is important to Muslims, but he is the last prophet, but he's not the only one, okay? Because I can own it, I've been to Gainesville to do training. Terry Jones, we've often said if he would only just read the Quran, he wouldn't think about burning it, because in that Quran, again, are the stories. There's one whole chapter on Mary, mother of Jesus. We believe in the virgin birth. We believe in the second coming of Christ. Now, this is where I differed with my evangelical friends, because they would say that if you would accept Jesus Christ as your Son, Savior, and Lord, that gives you straight salvation to heaven. For Muslims, we say we don't know. That when we die, we believe there will be a day of judgment where our good deeds and our bad deeds will be weighed, and we're not sure what that's really going to mean. And so we don't say that we do not believe that Jesus was crucified, that Jesus was loved by God, and he was the one messenger that was saved, who ascended to heaven, and will return on the final day of judgment. That's what Muslims believe. That is Muslim theology. We believe in the holy books, the Torah, the Gospels, and the Quran. Okay, the Quran was not written by Muhammad. We believe that it was through Angel Gabriel that the Quran was, the recitations were received, and that they were memorized, and soon after the Prophet's life, they were written in the language that the revelations came, which was Arabic. Now, what do y'all need to know about the Quran? In prisons, or in corrections, or going into the mosque, that Muslims do believe that the Quran is God's word. So I remember with my friends in Lake Alfred, their Bible, they wrote in it, they had post-it notes. It was thrown up against the dashboard. Not that they didn't respect it, but it was a working text. For us, as Muslims, we are taught never to mishandle the Quran, never to place anything on top of it. So you'd find it placed in the highest point of a room, or it's usually an ornament that you would put on a coffee table. Some of you, maybe for you in Iraq, or have engaged with Muslims, they would give you a Quran as a gift. Now that's not code for them thinking maybe you'll become a Muslim, but it's a beautiful text for them. And so that is why it's revered, is we believe that it's literally God's word. Okay, beliefs in one God, and Muhammad is a messenger of God, but not the only one. Prayer. So let's look at prayer. 5 times a day, Muslims are expected to pray. Now, I'm going to out it. Not all Muslims pray 5 times a day. But what are the times of prayer? Who knows? What is that? Yes. Dawn, actually. Dawn. What's the next? Noon. And then afternoon, sunset, and then night. Okay, 5 times. So if you're near a mosque, you said your offices are behind a mosque, or the mosque is behind you, and you may hear that call for prayer. The call for prayer is say, come to sanctuary, come to peace, come to prayer. And it is honestly, in a Muslim country, I would hear the call for prayer. But life goes on. The only place where life stops, the schedule of the day revolves around prayer, is in Saudi Arabia, where when the call for prayer happens, that is your appointment with God. And the stores close. If you're watching a movie on television, guess what? Prayer intermission. I was like, oh my gosh, because you didn't want anybody to say, oh, but it's getting to the really good part. I don't want to miss it. You're not going to miss it. Go to your prayers, okay? So, but that's just Saudi. I mean, Saudi Arabia has a population of 20 million. Very small minority of Muslims in the world. Okay, what's the largest Muslim majority country? Indonesia. Indonesia, and we just had elections in the world's largest democracy. What country is that?
India.
India. And India has 1 billion people, so guess what? Some say that there are more Muslims in India than there are in Indonesia, depending on who you ask. So again, reminding ourselves that Muslims are multicultural. All right, I want to, I have a condition known as multiple sclerosis, and I used to be able to do it, but I can't anymore to get down on the ground, or you all will have to be picking me up. But what I want to do is just show you the prayer and actually say it to you in English, because one of the things that I think foreignizes Muslims is because it's in Arabic, right? So for Muslims, I don't know, is anybody here a Muslim? Yes? Would you be willing to come up? Sure. Great. Salam alaikum. You're kind of good. What's your name? Alham. Yeah, beautiful. So Alham, would you mind doing the prayer, and then I will just say it in English? Sure. Okay. Should I take my shoes off? Well, you see the shoes, Sam, so I take my shoes off. Yes, go ahead and take your shoes off. And then we're not just really doing the prayer, but we're going to show you the steps. So, Alham would, before prayer, what do Muslims usually do? They do wudu, which is what? What's wudu? It's the cleansing yourself. So Muslims, we don't have priests, or we don't have preachers, or we don't have a pope. So we believe when we pray, it's in front of God, between me and God. So we also then would do an ablution. And the ablution is, do you know what, Alham?
You just basically wash your hands.
Wash your hands 3 times, mouth 3 times, your nose 3 times, your face, top of your head, back of your neck, your ears, up to your right arm 3 times, up to your left arm 3 times, then your feet 3 times, and your left foot. Right foot first, left foot. That's the ablution. Now, so why remove the shoes? In the example of who? Who removed their sandals before prayer? In the Judeo-Christian heritage. What do we know? Moses. Moses did, right? So Moses. Okay, and she would, if we had noon, the direction of prayer would be towards Mecca. Why Mecca? We don't worship that cube. We believe that Abraham placed the first stone of worship for the house of worship was in what we call Mecca today. So again, so much of our tradition is based on Judaic Christian historical context. Okay, so Elham will start off and then I'll just, you can say it in Arabic and then I'll explain in English. So, just towards them, okay, so they can see. Okay, all right, so Allahu Akbar. God is greater. So it's sometimes like pushing the world behind you to focus just now on God. Okay, and just start to say the Fatiha. Ameen. So that is the first verse in the Quran. So what does that say? In the name of God, the merciful and the compassionate. Glory be to God, Lord of the worlds, King of the day of judgment. You alone I worship, and you alone I pray to. Amen, or Ameen in Arabic. And then she would pick any other verse in the Quran. And I'm going to be honest, it was my grandmother. She would pick a very long verse, and we could say a very long time. But we're not going to do that now. I typically choose one of the shorter verses, like Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, but we're just showing you. So then she would then go ahead and do the next prostration. And then she comes on her knees. Glory be to God the highest, glory be to God the highest, glory be to God the highest. Then she comes back up. God is greater, and then she goes back down, kneeling, yes. So then she goes back down, glory be God the highest, glory be God the highest, glory be God the highest. Then she comes back up and says God is greater. Then she go back down, glory be God the highest, glory be God the highest, glory be God the highest. And then that is one cycle of the prayer, okay? And that would be done 2 times at dawn, 4 times at noon, 4 times at afternoon, 3 times at sunset, and 4 times in the evening. And that's a prayer. Prayer can be done anywhere, in any place, as long as it's clean and it's dry. We don't have to be in a place of worship. Now, after 9/11, of course, we had some Muslims praying, happened to be in front of a federal building, and the beautiful park, it raised alarms. But we also had people in workplaces, like Walmart, that were doing the prayer. And again, it's just understanding the why behind the what. Because some Muslims say, this is my appointment with God. If you had an appointment, a meeting with your boss, would you be late? No. However, that's what for some Muslims, they say, I don't want to be late. However, I'm going to tell those in corrections in particular, know that they have a time range of time. From dawn to noon, they could do that dawn prayer. From noon to afternoon, they could do that noon prayer. That there is a range of time that they have. At Disney, they had at Epcot a Saudi Arabian expo. And the Saudi employees said, we need to stop for prayer exactly at this time. Well, I kind of said, I know that's what you do in Saudi, but here, for the sake of your work, you can't do that because the park is running and people are coming, but that's Disney was able to work a time for them to do the prayer. And then at the very end, what Elham would do is, while she would be on her knees, she would turn to the right, and what would you say? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May the peace and blessings of God be with you. May the peace and blessings of God be with you. Again, my beautiful grandmother, when we were driving from Washington, D.C. down to Florida, call for prayer. She has in her mind the time. She would do the prayer sitting in the car. I can do it sitting in my scooter. You can do it anywhere and any place, as long as it's a clean, dry place. And that's just the prayer, okay? Simple and also similar to the other, the Lord's Prayer and the opening of the Quran are identical. Glory be to God, keep me on the straight path, the path that you have blessed. What's in the Lord's Prayer? Keep me from temptation, for thine is the kingdom. Very, very close in terms of scripture. Okay. I think Alhamdulillah, 100 points. Do you mind telling us where you're coming from?
Sure. So I'm from California. I moved to Miami about 2 years ago. Ethnically, I'm Afghan. I'm from Afghanistan. My family immigrated during Soviet invasion.
So, come over here, Afghan. So see this Muslim woman? I'm a Muslim woman. Afghan, right? Even my own stereotypes would say, oh, Afghan woman, what do we perceive? First thoughts. But they would be all covered up. So again, just reminding ourselves of the diversity amongst all communities, and particularly for Muslim, and particularly for Muslim women. Okay? Yes, Norman?
Ilhan, perhaps you could share with us, what do you do for a living?
Oh, I'm an AUSA here on the 6th floor.
Great. They're here. So, and that's what I want to say is we're going to look at how to engage more effectively. You all need to be representing the communities that you serve. I'm really glad to see there's a good number of women, but I want to see more women. I want to see more, that we need to show the diversity of our community and also our law enforcement, because it's an advantage. It's an advantage. Great. Shukran. Thank you. All right, let's moving right along. I'm going to just go through these pieces real quick. Common terminology, y'all know this, so I'm not even going to say anything about it. Quran considerations, just let you, again, reminding. I know we had detectives because Qurans have been targeted for defaming or desecrating. We've had Qurans being taken and markers with the crosses being put through them. We've had Qurans with pig's blood, with bacon. So we'd say, detectives, do your investigation, return it to the leader of the mosque, and let them handle it, okay? Let them handle it, but not just to discard it. And they'll do what they need to do. That would be in honor of the scripture, okay? Sharia, the big S word. I'm going to tell you, I only knew Sharia once in my long life. Norman, I appreciate you calling me young lady. I'm in my 50s. But let me tell you that the Sharia, my husband and I had to do a Muslim ceremony. It wasn't a Muslim ceremony, really, because the marriage between a man and woman is really a civil ceremony. But out of symbolism, we did a ceremony in the mosque in Tampa, and that was the first and only time that I knew Sharia in my life. When the imam said to me, sister, you know that what is your wealth, meaning whatever property or thing that I brought into the marriage was mine, and he couldn't touch it. And when we divorced, if we divorced, that whatever was mine is mine and not his. So I always love to remind my husband, I said, what is mine is mine, what I earn as president of Connected Cultures is mine, but what is yours is ours. And know this, that in the Quran, or in Sharia, Sharia means literally street, literally means path, okay? And literally it actually means the path to the watery hole. Because think of it, it came out of a desert climate. If you want to have water in the desert, which path do you want to take? Do you want to meander back and forth around? No, you want to go the straightest path. So that's what Sharia means. It's the straightest path to water or to God or to peace. So my brothers, I have two younger brothers, in Sharia, they would inherit more than me, the female. I used to think too, why is that? It's not fair. However, as a female, I am only responsible fiscally for myself. But it is my husband, it is my brothers, it is my father who are financially responsible for their wife, for their children, for their sister, for housing, feeding, anything that we need, clothing. That is their God-given law that they must do. Now, I know in the state of Florida, we'll put the pink elephant out there, that have been members of our state legislator who have wanted to have an anti-Sharia bill. I'm telling you right now, there is nothing that can overthrow the U.S. constitutional law, all right? It is only, Sharia is really about how we practice our faith around inheritance, around alimony, around custody of our children. That is what Sharia is for most of us Muslims right here in the U.S. And there is an anti-constitutional clause. Believe me, our Constitution is way too strong to ever be overthrown by any Judaic law, Christian law, because that is antithetical to our separation of church and state, our separation of church and state. So again, just you having that information, you having that knowledge, because again, it is those on the fringe that can feed the misperception or the misinterpretation around Sharia. Okay, moving right along. So here you see it all. Now, any questions around this? Yeah. Okay, next, true or false, Saturday is the worship, the congregational worship, communal worship. How many say true? Have y'all caught on that most of the answers are false? Yeah. So it is Friday. Friday is the day from 12 to 2 is where you usually see worship in the mosque. It's the one day that men, not women, are asked to go pray with others. Now, again, that can be in a workplace. That can be, in the U.S. Congress, we've got many Muslim congressional staff members, and they have the right to pray just like Jews, just like Christians. By the way, the religious accommodation law not only protects those who believe in a faith, but also atheists. Atheists are just as protected that we, for example, could not start off our meeting today in prayer. That would be led by the U.S. Attorney, because that would mean making someone feel obliged or required, when religion should not come in the play of one's work, okay? And then their position in serving the government, okay? So, mosque considerations, I think the best thing is, I'm gonna ask if we can put on the film first 3 to 5 seconds. Has anybody seen that? Okay. Some of you may have once you see it, but if we can put that film on, this was made along with the training that we developed, that we said, let us have a film to basically, I remember they said, tell us everything we need to know about Arabs and Muslims. I'm going to tell you right now, the cops, the law enforcement officers who saw this to vet it first, they said, great film, but one problem. I said, what's the problem? 20 minutes is way too long. I said, 20 minutes to tell you everything you need to know about Arabs and Muslims? I then asked them, well, how long should it be? They said 6. Why? Because they said roll call, right? Roll call. So here's what we've done. This film is available online. We can give you a copy, but it's available at the DOJ Community Relations Services. So 6 minutes is devoted to Muslims, and 6 minutes is devoted to Arab Americans. Is it playing?
survival is the first priority. However, in order to be safe and effective, officers must be able to differentiate between a threat and a cultural norm. Under emergency circumstances, events always dictate an officer's response. This video will address only non-crisis situations and will provide basic tools to recognize cultural norms of some Arab and Muslim Americans.
So to understand the community from our perspective is a great thing for officer safety and community safety, because misunderstandings get people killed and can create situations as extreme as a riot.
Stereotypes of Arabs, which have existed throughout American history, may influence our perceptions of individuals.
We have Aladdin, Sand, AK-47, Hates America, terrorists.
That we don't speak English, the women that we are oppressed, that we are uneducated.
Nobody says algebra. Nobody says astronomy. Nobody says Ursula McCullough, the teacher in the Challenger explosion, who was also Arab American. So we're almost programmed to think Arab negative, maybe neutral, but rarely will people say something positive.
The most painful stereotype that exists of Arabs and Muslims has been terrorist. Suicide is considered a sin in Islam. To kill an innocent person is considered to be a sin in Islam.
Then who exactly are Arab Americans? Arab Americans immigrated from the Arabic-speaking nations of North Africa, the Arabian Gulf countries, the Fertile Crescent, and the Middle East.
Arab Americans have been coming to this country since the late 1800s. There are estimates of at least 3 million Arab Americans in this country. If you really look at Arab Americans, they're very much a part of the thread of American society, from our small business owners and entrepreneurs to teachers, to doctors, to lawyers.
Unlike the stereotypes, Arab and Muslim American women are often educated professionals, respected by their families, and active in their communities. Contrary to popular belief, many Arab Americans are Christian. Can you tell which of these people are Arab? None of them are. The vast majority of the people who wear turbans in this country are Sikhs, who are neither Arab nor Muslim. Their roots are in northern India. Now, which of these people are Arab? They all are. Arabs range widely in skin tone, hair texture, and eye color, and other physical features. Arab Americans are as diverse as America's other ethnic and cultural communities. On the other side, some recent immigrants have negative perceptions of police. For example, some may assume that police in this country behave the same as those in their native lands.
I've known people who were dragged into prison and people didn't even know if they're alive or dead, for simple things. Police there are very free to slap somebody in the face just to get them to answer a simple question, as simple as what's your name. I still have that fear because a lot of times when the police officers stop me, I don't know what they're going to do.
The events of September 11th have also affected Arab and Muslim perceptions of law enforcement here in the U.S. They feel under extra suspicion, scrutiny, and have greater fear. As a result, police actions may be misinterpreted. Many of the communities see local law enforcement as all the same, with no distinction in their jobs from the FBI, INS, U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Customs.
That makes the gap of mistrust larger. It's just a snowball effect that is very ugly.
Arab Americans and Muslim Americans are definitely more scared to call the police for minor problems, and they would probably rather swallow it, if I should say, rather than probably open a can of worms that they not need to open. And it's all simply because, they don't know how they're going to be perceived, they don't know what's going to come next.
Building strong lines of communication with these communities can reduce some of these tensions. It can also facilitate acceptance of explanations for any misunderstandings that occur during emergency situations.
Probably the most important thing that we all need to do is take the time to engage one another, speak with one another, learn each other's feelings, each other's customs, see that there are so many things that we have in common, So our police department's posture is that it's important to do outreach to all the communities.
Tell the community what they should expect when dealing with a law enforcement officer. Teach them about their roles and responsibilities. Learn and address their needs and concerns. Provide direct points of contact to the state and local police, the local FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and to the Department of Justice's Community Relations Service. Patrol officers also can help create understanding.
An officer sees a violation, walks up and explains the reason for the traffic stop. Usually that's half the battle as far as that perception and misunderstanding.
Knowing a few cultural considerations will help you be more effective.
In Arab culture, give great respect to members who represent authority. It would be impolite, disrespectful to give one direct, consistent eye contact. So they may look and then they look away. They look and they look away.
Another possible source of confusion is Arab names. Arab and Muslim names are spelled in a variety of ways in English because some Arabic sounds do not exist in the English alphabet. Arab names typically have 4 parts. However, most forms in America allow space for only 2 or 3 names. Due to these and other cultural factors, the same name may be spelled differently, or different names may appear in different documents for the same individual.
So that first piece is focusing on Arab culture. Yes, keep going. And then this next piece will be about Muslims in Islam.
Although only a minority of Arab Americans are Muslim, it is important to understand who Muslims are. Islam is a religion that worships the God of Abraham. People who practice the religion of Islam are called Muslims. The majority of Muslims in America are not Arab. They are African American and Asian American. The place of worship is called a mosque or masjid. In order to keep a strong connection with God, Islam prescribes that believers pray 5 times a day. Friday between 12 and 2 in the afternoon is the time of congregational worship, so increased traffic and activity at the mosques at this time is common. When in doubt about cultural considerations, ask questions.
You basically have to approach it from the standpoint of blunt honesty. What do you expect of me, and what can I do to maintain the level of respect to your institution?
If you visit a mosque, be aware that there are separate entrances to the prayer sections for males and females as an extension of modesty. To keep their minds on the worship of God, men and women pray in separate sections. Shoes are removed before entering the area dedicated to prayer. Avoid stepping on the prayer rug with your shoes. Islam prescribes that men and women behave and dress modestly. Shorts or revealing clothing are not worn at the mosque. One cultural consideration is that women cover their heads with scarves or hats when praying or where the prayer section is. It is inappropriate to interrupt someone in prayer. Typically, one will walk behind or far ahead of the person in prayer or wait until he or she is finished before they pass or approach. Respect and modesty for some Muslims may mean not touching someone of the opposite sex, even in the case of a handshake. It is better to let the person of the opposite sex extend his or her hand as a signal that it is okay to shake hands. Such modesty also applies to home visits. This may seem suspicious, but it may be inappropriate to enter a home if only someone of the opposite sex is present. If circumstances permit, return when a resident of the same gender as the officer is available. Having a female officer present can also be helpful.
You're a police officer from Montgomery County? Yes, from Private Office, exactly?
Some Muslims pray at home and may take their shoes off when entering the house to keep the carpet clean.
Would you be kind enough to take your shoes off?
If you cannot remove your shoes, ask where you can hold a conversation with your shoes on. Arab culture values respect and saving face. Individuals may wish to be interviewed apart from their families to save face. Publicity in public scenes may also cause unnecessary embarrassment and humiliation.
The proper protocol, if police officers offered a drink or a snack, would be to accept it. If one says no thank you, even if they say it very politely, that can be offensive.
Accept the offering even if you choose not to eat or drink it. This is considered more acceptable than rejecting their hospitality. A prayer rug is about the size of a large towel. Muslims do not step on it with their shoes to keep the rug clean and cool for prayer. In cases involving searches, extra scrutiny should be a result of behavioral characteristics rather than physical appearance or attire. Indiscriminate touching of a head covering or body may be perceived as offensive. We know your job is to be observant, but be aware that a male staring at or touching a woman is considered offensive. If a search of a woman's scarf is warranted, explain why she needs to remove it. Public searches of the headscarf are viewed as humiliating and violate one's religious tenets. Have a female officer bring her into a private room, if you have those resources, and ask her to remove the scarf herself. Paying attention to details like these will go a long way in building rapport and cooperation with the Arab and Muslim American communities.
The members of the community love to interrelate with their politicians, their community leaders, and their police departments. So to get close and to be able to share concerns, positive things, and all kinds of aspects of day-to-day living environments and stuff of that nature, it works out wonderfully. Would love to have both sides educate each other as to perceptions, correcting difficulties, and mending fences where there may be a breach. If we do that, we'll be okay.
You can see that it's dated, so we are trying to have an updated version. But if anybody wants a copy, talk to Mildred. She'll be able to tell you how to get one, or let me know. Okay. All right. I want you all to close your eyes for a moment. And I know law enforcement hates not being in full control. I promise I'm not going to do anything to you. Just for a moment to close your eyes. Okay, open your eyes. First thoughts, if you saw me come into this room with my hair covered like this, might there be some assumptions or that may exist about women who cover their hair? Are there? Yes? You better believe it. Yes. What are some stereotypes or assumptions about women dressed like me that exist in society? What are some?
Subservient to a man.
Subservient to a man. Yes. What else?
Very religious.
Very religious or fanatic. Yes.
I would not shake your hand.
Pardon?
I would not extend my hand.
Yeah, so not to extend your hand. She's definitely not going to touch my hand, right? What else? Submissive, oppressed, un-American, anti-American, terrorist, don't speak English, right? I say that all of us have tapes that are playing, and from the day that we're born, pushes record. And everything that we've been told, everything that we've seen, everything that we've even experienced gets recorded on our tapes. No one is immune from stereotypes or the tapes that are playing. In the diversity field, we are more and more talking to employers about what's been called unconscious bias. That our brains are wired to categorize people. It's in our DNA in a sense. And people like yourself have to be conscious and conscientious about what are those stereotypes that are playing. And when I'm engaging with someone who might be and I'm just focusing on Muslim women, but who are older, who are fat, who are speaking with a strong accent. By the way, we all have accents. To be aware and to acknowledge we all have stereotypes. Anybody who says to me, I don't have stereotypes about anyone, I don't believe you, because we all have them. If they only stayed in our brain, that'd be fine. But what happens is we may use them and how we may communicate or engage with someone. I know when someone is treating me based on their tapes, when they may approach me and they say, you speak English good? Because of course they go loud, slow down, and they assume what? That I'm not English speaker first language, which it is. And I love to respond, no, I speak English well, right? And also thinking about assumptions about what and who we are. I want to ask you, not just knowing what are the tapes that are playing about other communities, but what are some of the tapes and stereotypes playing about you in law enforcement? What are some of the labels, stereotypes that you know they have about you? Besides loving Dunkin' Donuts, okay? What are some others? Yes? You all know what the community has stereotypes about you as law enforcement. What are some of them?
We shoot innocent black people.
Okay, that you're first to shoot and ask questions later, right? That you're violent, right? Yes. What else? What else are some of the stereotypes about law enforcement?
We all lie.
Pardon?
We all lie.
You all lie, that you can't trust them. Yes, what else?
We cover for each other.
That you cover for each other, right? You cover for the blue. I've heard that, yes. What else?
We don't care about the community we serve.
Yeah, that you don't care about the community that you serve. And so that's why you go back to those 3 R's. Because just like I tell Muslims in the community, you need to engage with law enforcement so that those stereotypes are shed. And the same for you all. And that's why respect, relationships, and resilience. Get them to know you behind the badge, you behind the uniform, to know you about being a family member, being a father, being a mother. Let them see the person behind the label, and vice versa, which you're doing. I'm happy to say that I hear a lot through community relations services about your efforts to engage with not only the Muslim community, but also with all the other communities. And the demographics are dramatically changing. You have one of the toughest jobs, because what it means to be an American should always be one thing: work hard, obey the laws, or abide by the laws, and pay your taxes. That's what American means to me. But unfortunately, there's some people think that it also means the way you dress, or that you're the way that you believe. And that's not based on our Constitution what makes you American. So I want to say to you officers, I know that you make every effort, but just know that we're all human, that we are wired to categorize. So being able to know what's playing on your tapes so that you push pause. I don't think you can erase the stereotypes, but push pause so that you can engage effectively based on the knowledge and the information that you have. And for the community, the same. Okay? All right. Why do some women cover their hair? Do y'all know why?
Didn't have time to
Modesty.
make it up.
Pardon?
Didn't have time to make it up.
They didn't have time to make it up, right? It's an easy excuse. I could be wearing it for the rest of the day because I'd say it's bad hair day, right? It depends on the person. It depends on the family. It depends on the culture, the community. Again, I have 60 plus cousins in Egypt. And I also have cousins in Kuwait and in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. If you brought all of us on this stage today, you will see in my own family how we define diversity differently, okay? And there's something about this piece of cloth that for some Americans, that it just is very hard to penetrate. But think about this. The Virgin Mary, have you ever seen a statue or a picture of her without a scarf, right? Think of nuns. They dress covering their hair. Think of, I live up in the DC area, think of the Amish community, the Mennonite. So again, covering your hair has nothing to do just with Muslims. It comes out of a Judaic Christian heritage. I live in Montgomery County, Maryland, a significant Jewish community. They not only will cover their hair, they won't wear pants because it's about modesty. It's about modesty. So again, just know what are the tapes that are playing about the communities or the individuals that you might be engaged with. Push pause. And also let them get to know you so that they are not presuming and assuming based on the stereotypes that they have of you as law enforcement. Okay. Yes?
What are some of the factors that influence whether a woman chooses to wear it or not wear it?
Interpretation.
Whether in the United States or abroad?
Yeah, interpretation of what modesty is. I'm going to tell you right now, for me as a Muslim, the Quran does not say cover your hair. It says to be modest and to cover your bosom, to cover your front and to veil. And it was actually just by, it was covered, it was just interpreted differently. Just like if we got all Christians together, you know, in the Bible it says when in worship that women should cover their hair. I can't remember which verse or chapter that is, but that's in the Bible. And that was my evangelical friends telling me. So again, it's interpretation. And it's only out of the 52 Muslim majority countries, it's only in 2 that mandate when a woman's in public that she should cover. Which 2 countries are those? Saudi Arabia and Iran. I've been to both countries. And so in Saudi, my cousins, which believe me as the American who speaks up, I couldn't stand it, but this is what they do in Saudi. And I would tell my cousins, how can you be like this? They said it's our tradition. But it's not Muslim, it's their interpretation of what they believe is modest. But there's no other place in the Muslim world that interprets modesty to be cover your face. It's more out of a cultural desert society. Think about it, we dress based on our environment. And in desert climate, what else do you see the men? What do the men do with their head? They also cover it too, and they also typically wear white, okay? Muslim men and women pray separately in mosque. There are 2 entrances. However, it can be Shiites who don't pray in the same, they don't do the differentiation. But also in Mecca, the most holiest of places where Muslims convene, men and women pray together. And just last night, I saw a fatwa, meaning an opinion was made by a Sudanese imam or religious leader. And guess what he said? Blew me away. He said that men and women, they can pray in the same place. That women can lead the prayer. That women can also marry non-Muslims because it's about the people of the book. Jews and Christians in the Quran are referred to as Ahlul Kitab. Ahlul Kitab means people of the book. That we all come from the same root out of the story of Abraham and beyond. So I was amazed that a religious leader had made that statement. But that's where Islam is changing, and where I think many Muslims believe that they have the right to practice their own faith more freely in this country than they may do, particularly, say, for the Shiite community, who can be persecuted in Sunni majority countries. Now, who knows the difference between Sunni and Shiite? Does anybody? Yes. What is it? Can you share with us what it is?
Has to do with who leads the Nation of Islam after Muhammad's death. Prophet Muhammad. Sunni is, they believe the best one to serve is elected. And in Shia, it's the cousin.
Yeah, the bloodline. So perfect. So Shiite literally means partisans of Ali. And Ali was a relative of the Prophet Muhammad. So when Muhammad died, they said, who is going to be our next leader? And there was a debate. Some who said it is going to be a democratically elected, those who follow the Sunnah in the example of the prophets, not just Muhammad. And then those who said, no, it must be a blood relative. So in Iran, the largest Shiite community, you have ayatollahs. What does ayatollah mean? Sign of God. When I went to Iran, it was very foreign to me because they have huge sides of their building covered with religious leaders. There's a great credibility and credence to what the Muslim leader says, or basically would ask the community to do or not to do. Not in the Sunnah. In the Sunni, which is the vast majority of Muslim. Again, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't until the Iraq War when I was asked, well, what are you? I said, what do you mean, what are you? They said, are you Sunni Shia? At first, I had to ask my parents. Because again, we never divided ourselves thinking that. We always say Muslim. We always say Muslim. Okay. So, press pause on your tapes. Know when your tape might be playing. And this, again, not just about Muslims, about African American young men, about people who speak English as their second language with a different accent, about women. I'm glad to see more and more women in this room. I think we need to do more in terms of having diversity that crosses all aspects of our identity, Okay. How are you all? So I'm going to give you, let's look at the next slides. It's 11:30. What time are we to end today?
12:30.
Till 12:30. So here's the good news. The good news is we're not going to go till 12:30. The bad news maybe is we are going to maybe go till 12. Okay? So what I'd like to do is we can go to the next slide and just about Muslims being identified by what they wear. Excuse me. Look at these next people on the slide here. So who here is a Muslim? Can y'all tell? Guess what? They all are. And the middle guy is my husband, Alex Kromer. Michael Wolf, a Muslim. David Liepert, a Muslim. Again, just remembering that Muslims, the whole thing about Muslim garb or looking Muslim. Muslim women, again, cover or don't cover. Some wear pants, some don't. I mean, my cousin Shireen in Egypt, she covers her hair, but I'm telling you right now, she wears the tightest jeans. I don't know how she gets them on and off, but for her, that's modesty, all right? So again, not to think of Muslims as a monolithic, okay? All right, so dressing modestly, I think you're correct. If you do see a Muslim woman covering her hair, do not extend your hand first. Wait for her to extend her hand. What does that have to do with women in the room? I know sometimes American women say, see, those Muslim or those Arab men, they don't respect us. They won't even shake my hand. It has nothing to do with disrespect. It has everything to do with respect. That because you are a member of an opposite gender that I am not related to, who am I to presume even to touch your hand? So just wait till they extend their hand first. If they do, then shake it. That's fine. Okay? All right. Next slide. Engaging for success. You all know this. Engaging with American Muslims it's a no-brainer. It's been said over and over again that it's true, improves communication. Someone in the break said communication is everything, right? And so the U.S. Attorney, but I also want to say the U.S. Attorney Ashcroft under President Bush really started this initiative. So it's gone beyond political parties in terms of the importance of engaging effectively with Muslim Americans. Okay, next slide. So I'd like everybody to stand up. And I want you to form groups of 4. And your task is to find 3 other people that you don't know or don't know that well, okay? Because I'd like also for you all to mix with each other. So get out of your comfort zone and find 3 other people that possibly you don't know or that you don't work with on a day-to-day basis. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is answer some of these questions, particularly what is it that you're doing to effectively engage not just with Muslims, but in general with other diverse populations. And based on this information today, what more could you be doing? All right? So what are you doing to engage effectively with Muslims, but in general with other diverse communities? Specific. I don't want to hear, well, we just learned to respect each other. Identify something very tangible. And then what more can you be doing based on the information you gained, that you gained perhaps today? All right, so take 10 minutes, each of you, to just share, and then we'll hear back from a few of you at the end. Okay? Thank you.